Hey, welcome back. You're tuning in to howtoplaystock.com. My name is Casey. Today is December 26th, 2017. It's the day after Christmas. I hope you guys had a good one. I know I did. Today's video, I'm going to be covering asset bubbles. And the reason why I chose this topic is because there's a lot of debates about markets being at all-time highs. If you take a look at Bitcoin, for instance, it's just absolutely exploded over the last few months. So there's a lot of talk going out there, a lot of chat online about things being in bubbles, and a lot of people are saying no, and there's a lot of people saying yes. So there's people on both sides of that. But I'm reading a book right now that covers bubbles, and it's written by Harry S. Dent Jr. It's called The Sell of a Lifetime. I just got this actually for Christmas, so I'm starting into the book. I'm only through the first chapter right now, but he's an expert on demographics, okay? And he's studied these charts for probably a good 30 years, and some of what's in his book here on asset bubbles is just, it's in your face, it's astonishing, and I like to go off of facts, okay, and historical data and research that's been done and validated by professionals like Harry S. Dent. All right, now I may not always agree with his opinions. You don't have to either, but what he's showing you in some of these charts, which we'll go in and look at here in a minute, are just you can't argue with them, you can't debate them. All right. Now you might be asking, how do you know if you're even in a bubble? Okay, and there's certain things you can look for that are great indicators, that show you you're in a bubble or you're going into a bubble. And so that's what I want to cover with you in this video, is things that you can look for when you're looking at charts and just historical data and even current data for that matter. So getting started on asset bubbles, the number one indicator that I think and this is just my own opinion, when you're going into an asset bubble or like a stock market bubble, is when the price becomes too expensive for ordinary folks. Okay, so people like you and I, the retail investor, when that price gets too expensive, and let's say you're paying out like $150 to $200 per share, given historical data on the amount of cash flow that most Americans have after they get paid and pay all their bills, most people can't afford that right now. Okay, I'd say probably about 75 to 80% of people can't afford stocks at that price level. So that's one thing to look at. If it's too expensive, the stock is too expensive for most ordinary people to own or buy, you're looking at a bubble. Okay, and again, it's my opinion. You can disagree with me on that if you want. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions here. The other thing that I look at is the price action. Again, if the price action is parabolic, like for instance, great example, Bitcoin. We went from just this summer. I want to say it was, I'd have to go back and look at the charts, but I think it was around like September time frame, August time frame. We were only at like $3,500 a Bitcoin, and then if you look at it now, we're like in the 15,000 range. We've been as high as 20,000. Okay, so that's parabolic price action, and that's what I'm referring to here when I talk about things going parabolic. Stock market, I'll show you here in a little bit. Same thing. A lot of things are going parabolic, especially when you're looking at indexes. And then you also got to take into consideration the masses will start jumping on board and buying up these assets just purely based off of speculation. I call it euphoria because it's orgasmic, like, in nature. These people they get really excited, and their belief system is that they don't think they can lose. All right, so they get this euphoria state that they go into, and they go all in on whatever it is, thinking that they can get rich quick. Okay, and that's what you're seeing with Bitcoin, and even the major banks are doing it too. So like your professional day traders and stuff, they run into this and are challenged to basically keep their cool and not go into a state of euphoria as well. So even the professional day traders face this. The last thing I want to cover here on bubbles real quick, and this is all coming from this book that that I'm reading, The Sale of a Lifetime by Harry S. Dent Jr. The other aspect of it that they just covered in the first chapter here was the phases that a bubble goes through. So I want to cover that real quick. You get the first phase here, which is desire and arousal. So people are desiring to get rich quick, like I was telling you about. They get aroused and excited, and then that excitement grows. So that would be the second phase. They go from that desire and arousal to the second phase, which is the growing excitement about the asset, and then the final phase here is euphoria, and it's almost orgasmic like, and then you're at a peak, and from there the bubble pops. Okay, now I'm going to go in here, keep watching the video. I'm going to show you some charts and show you what I've seen so far in the book, which is all historical data, and it's backed by professionals who've done the research. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about here on the chart on the board here, and I'll tie that in with the actual charts. Okay, so keep watching, and I'll see you in the next segment of this video. Okay, so we're here looking at some charts from the book The Sale of a Lifetime, which is written by Harry S. Dent Jr. And before I get started here, the book really is about cycles. All right, and he explains it very well in this book. He says a cycle would be a good example would be like the sun rising in the morning and then setting in the evening. There's a cycle to the sun and specific times when that sun rises and when it falls, and that's predictable. And therefore, if you know what to look for as far as cycles in economies and in the stock market, you can kind of, and these aren't my words, these are Harry S. Dent's words. He says you can kind of predict at a certain time, when you're hitting a peak in the markets, and then when we go into a crash. So this chart you're looking at right now is just showing you the parabolic price action that I was talking about, and this compares indexes. Okay, so you have the complete industry sectors. You got the Nikkei index, the NASDAQ index, the Shanghai index. You got biotech up here, and you've got gold and real estate. You even have Japan's real estate. But the point he's trying to prove here in this chart is that all these bubbles that occurred, they start, based off this index over here. If you're following my cursor, it's the index of 1. So they all start at 1, and Nikkei went up 5.6 times where it started, and then it came crashing down. So the movement was parabolic. Same with the NASDAQ. You had 6.8 times the increase in volume or price action. Real estate, you had 2.2 times the price action in the U.S. real estate. You had 2.6 times price action in the Japan real estate, 5.6 times in Shanghai index, 4.8 in gold, and 6.9 in biotech. And these are just a few from 1982 to 2016 that have all went into bubbles and have popped. And you can see in every single one of them, the price action is parabolic. All right, so that's one way to indicate that you're in a bubble. We'll go on here. He gives you some other charts to look at, and in these charts he's saying that basically when you go into these bubbles, they come down, they don't correct, they basically fall in price, free fall, just as fast as, actually faster than what they went up in price action. And as you can see here, we went with the car production. This is the S&P Auto Stock Index bubble before the 1929 crash. That's at the very top of the chart here. In 1924, we went all the way up 620%, roughly around 1929, and then we dropped off from 1929 to 1932 with a 92% fall in price. Okay, so if you would have bought in up here at the top during that time frame, you would have lost a shit ton of money. You pretty much would have went broke, and a lot of people did. Um, Figure 3.5 was Japan's real estate bubble. Okay, and again, he's illustrating here and just goes straight up, parabolic. 1964 to 1989, went up 397%. That was on commercial, for commercial real estate in Japan. And then you had residential and industrial. All those as well went straight up, and then they came down. Okay, so there was a negative 87% drop in commercial real estate, so it lost 80% of its value. And then on the residential and industrial, well, and it would have been industrial here. It lost 65% of its value from its peak at 160% returns. And these sources are coming from the Land Institute of Japan, all right, and Bloomberg. So we'll go to the next chart. And this one's on student loan debt, which has surged nearly $1 trillion since 2003. And as you can see, price action. Is it a bubble? Well, it's parabolic from 2003 all the way to 2015. $1 trillion. It surged almost $1 trillion. And then there's this belief that you can't lose, like I was talking about. So down here he talks about most Americans want their kids to go to college. They believe that without a college education, keyword, they believe without a college education, job prospects and earning capacity would be limited, right? Well, this is no longer the case today. Yet we have a student loan bubble of epic proportions. That's what he's talking about here. So again, it's that belief that you cannot lose. We'll keep going. This is the ultimate bubble and burst. Now, this is based off of cycles again, and these cycles are coming from Masters and Johnson male orgasm chart. All right, so it talks about basically there's a state of desire in the man, which leads to excitement and arousal, and then the man has, he reaches his peak in the orgasmic phase and then falls off sharply right here, as you can see. So what he's pointing out though is with the male orgasmic cycle, you can actually correlate it with the way stocks in the economy works, which I thought was really interesting, because we'll go to the next picture here. In figure 4.2, we're looking at the Nikkei bubble from 1985 to 1992. And he takes the Master and Johnson orgasm cycle for a man, and he compares it to the chart of the actual Nikkei index. And you can see they almost are correlating hand in hand. That's coming from Japan Statistics Bureau, Masters and Johnson. And then we go over here to the Roaring Twenties. That state of euphoria that I was talking about. Well, here's a chart of the Roaring Twenties from 1924 to 1932. And then he lays the Masters and Johnson's orgasm cycle for a man over top of it, and it does the same exact thing. So basically what he's saying is not all cycles rhyme, but they can repeat. Now, this chart you're looking at here is the female orgasm chart. It's a little bit different from the male in regards to the desire phase, the excitement phase, and then you reach a peak. But the female's chart shows them reaching a peak and then coming down, several times, and then going back up. Like kind of like a head and shoulders type chart that you would see on price action for a stock, and then it comes diving back down after it's completed its third shoulder. And just to wrap it up here, this shows you a chart of the Dow Jones, and he lays the female orgasm chart over top of the Dow Jones chart. And this basically, if you're wanting to know where we're headed on the overall indexes for stocks in the Dow Jones, just follow the female orgasm cycle, and run that parallel to the Dow Jones, and you can see right here it's playing out almost identical to what the female orgasm cycle chart shows. So the cycle that we're getting on the Dow Jones, it's cyclical, okay, cycle oriented, and it's following to a T what the female orgasm chart is doing. And we got like maybe one last drop off here, and then we're going to start going into let's see here, where are we? That was 2016. Here's 2018, so we haven't quite got to 2018 yet, but according to this chart, he's saying that the Dow Jones is going to start falling off, and by 2030, that's when we'll hit our bottom for the entire Dow Jones index. So if you're in the markets right now and you're looking at this, don't try not to get spooked by it, because again, as it says in the title of his book, it's the sell of a lifetime. So, you know, if you got time on your hands and you're young, don't panic, because you can stay in and let your investments compound on the way down, and you can buy in and dollar cost average in to the stock market with investments you already have going. So they're working for you, but they're going to be buying at fire sale deals all the way down, okay? And even at the bottom here. And then when it turns around and rebounds up, well, you know, if you're young and you have time on your hands, you're going to be able to ride this whole thing back up and make a fortune. All right, this is where true wealth is made when it comes to being an investor. So don't panic when you're looking at this. Just know that there's a winter that comes before spring, and a winter that comes after fall. Okay, and right now we're going into the winter phase. So that's all I wanted to show you for this video. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give it a likes up, and I will talk to you guys later. And remember, income is the outcome, okay? I'll talk to you later.